the moment, if we look at our project, it's using Arial as a typeface, but in the final one, we don't actually want to use Arial, we want to use a different font. So how do we go about adding this to our project? Now, there's two ways to do this. Of course, the kind of easiest, quickest way is to add it as an @font face in our style sheet and then do it that way. I'm going to talk about doing it a different way for a reason, because I want to preload this font before anything happens in here. And the reason for that is I don't want any kind of flickering. So from that old font to a new font, I want it to load this font and then use it. So I'm going to add in one extra thing to my script. So I'm going to add right at the top of my page a new function. I've got setup, I've got draw. I want to add in the first function in here called preload. So I'm going to write the word function, then preload, then round brackets, then curly brackets. Now, what do I want to do in this preload? Well, this is going to do stuff before setup happens. What do I want to do in here? Well, what I want to do is load a font. Now, if I go back to the reference guide, again, go back down to typography, you can see here that we can load a font in. And usually we would do it in preload. It looks like this. We let the font equal something, and then we add it to here and then use it later on. So we're going to do this in a very similar way. In my project, I want to start with this let my font. Again, I can call it whatever I want, but before any of this stuff, I'm going to do let font. Now, the reason for doing it here is I want to let font be used here, here, and here. Now, if I just have let font inside of this preload, I can only use it inside preload, and I want to use it across the whole of this project. So what I'm going to do here is say font is equal to what? Well, again, if we look at the reference guide, it says load font, and then basically where this font is. So load capital F in font. Where is this going to be? Mine's called space grotesque medium. Space, need to be in quotes, space grotesque medium dot OTF, I think it is. Let's just double check. Yes, it is. So I could just copy and paste it from here, make it a little bit easier. So my font is now loaded. Now, if I go back to the page just to see what goes on, if I refresh, you can see in the top corner, there's a little loading sign, which is good because it tells everyone, you know, something is coming soon. Now, how do I add this to my project? I've got it in here, but I need to draw my text font. So again, if I just go back here, we can see here, text font, brackets, my font. Now, this isn't in quotes because this is to do with all of this preloaded font. So in here, what I can say is the same thing. I'm going to do it after fill, just before text size, my text font in brackets. Now, I could put in here something like Arial, which is what it is already, or Times New Roman, which is the kind of defaults. So there we go. But what I want to put in here is actually font, not in quotes. So I'm going to get rid of the quotes. This loaded font from up above, font. So this font is waiting to kind of load on part of the page, and then it saves it to this once it's done, and it means we can use it in any part of the project. So I'm just going to tidy that up. Let's have a look, and there we go. We've got the font ready to go. Now, if I do want to kind of change this and kind of add more flexibility to this, add more kind of changes to this page, what I can do actually is just show some kind of like loading. So by saying this, instead of being 0, 1, I can just change this to be something completely different, such as the frame count. What number frame are we on? So if I look at it right now, what we'll see is something very, very quickly moving very quick. Now, of course, this is kind of very flexible and it can change things very, very quickly. So I'm going to do just 0, 1 for now, but this is basically how we draw something on the page. Now, of course, we could have added this as a HTML element. What we're going to do in the next part of the video is almost clone this area that we've made and basically make a stamp. So we're going to clone it and then stamp it in lots of different ways so we can actually change how this looks to kind of move towards from this to something that looks a little bit more like that.